Years ago, my journey started at sea, as it must for all who journey to these lands. A complex and precarious place, at war with itself for centuries. From that chaos and bloodshed, my opportunity surfaced. In the form of the most powerful warlord their history had known. Oda Nobunaga. A lord who took an interest in me. An outsider among outsiders.
I want to dive into the fascinating story of Yasuke. While many of us recognize him from various anime in the recent game Assassin's Creed Shadows, it's important to note that Yasuke was indeed a real historical figure. However, his portrayal in Assassin's Creed Shadows has sparked some controversy. Critics have expressed their dissatisfaction with the game's representation of Yasuke, a black samurai, citing concerns over cultural appropriation and historical accuracy. Some gamers feel that the inclusion of a black character in a 16th century Japanese setting is an example of the game going woke. Hello, my wonderful chaos. How are you? I missed you all so much. I know I've been absent recently, but I do have a reason and I want to share with you all really quickly. Before we dive into the video, I want to share some exciting news. I now have merchandise available at my online store, bdisaster91.com. Be sure to explore the latest additions to the shop. After a year of hard work, I developed some amazing true crime investigation journals that I believe you'll really enjoy, along with apparel and home goods. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the new merch. Thank you for your support for the many months and years listening to my stories and just being amazing. Despite the criticism surrounding the game, I genuinely enjoy it, even though playing as Yasuke can be a bit challenging. By challenging, I mean that he struggles to climb walls and can't perform the leap of faith like Noe can. However, I understand the direction the creators took with this character. Yasuke is a samurai, and samurai are typically more skilled with the sword and focus on ground combat. I won't delve too deeply into samurai history here. I'll save that for another video. One of my favorite moments is when I attempt to have him reach a viewpoint, and he jumps in an awkward way, landing in a haystack with a humorous comment.
Any landing you can walk away from is good enough.
In 1579, an African individual known as Yasuke made his way to Japan. Much about his origins remains unclear. It is uncertain which African nation he came from, and there are no reliable records of his life after 1582. Nevertheless, Yasuke was a historical black samurai who served Oda Nobunaga, a pivotal feudal lord in Japan's history and a key figure in the country's unification. He also serves as the inspiration for Netflix's new anime series, Yasuke, created and directed by LaShawn Thomas in collaboration with the Japanese animation studio MAPPA. The series is executive produced by Lakeith Stanfield, who lends his voice to Yasuke, and Flying Lotus, who composed the soundtrack. Yasuke, who was born around 1555 in Eastern Africa, served as a valet and bodyguard to the Jesuit missionary Alessandro Valignano. He eventually became part of the inner circle of Oda Nobunaga, recognized as Japan's first significant unifier. Because of his close relationship with Nobunaga and his participation in at least one battle alongside him, many Japanese historians regard Yasuke as the first documented foreign-born samurai, although this claim has faced some debate. The main historical documents related to Yasuke's life are Jesuit reports written in Portuguese during the late 16th century, with the earliest publication dating back to 1598, along with accounts from Japanese historians Ota Jichiichi and Matsudaira Ietada. There are a few other documents that may reference Yasuke, including a letter from Mozambique found in 2021 by Oka Mihoko, a professor at the University of Tokyo. However, since the individuals mentioned are not explicitly identified, they could potentially refer to others. Additionally, it is likely that more references to Yasuke have either been lost over time or are yet to be uncovered. There is also some visual evidence believed to represent Yasuke on various lacquerware items, such as chests, writing boxes, and gunpowder containers, although verifying these as authentic portraits has proven challenging. The Sakai City Museum in Osaka Prefecture houses a folding screen attributed to an unknown artist from the early 17th century, which depicts an African man thought to be Yasuke engaged in a wrestling match with a Japanese opponent, surrounded by spectators, some of whom appear to be waiting for their turn. Among the onlookers is believed to be Nobunaga. These artworks indicate that Yasuke's legacy continued to resonate within Japanese culture for many years following the events for which he is celebrated. Yasuke is believed to have been born in Africa, likely among the Dinka people in what is now South Sudan, according to contemporary accounts by Ota and Matsudara. However, some 17th century secondary sources suggest he may have originated near present-day Mozambique. The only indication of Yasuke's age comes from Ota's Shinchokoki, the Chronicle of Lord Nobunaga, a biography of Nobunaga, which notes that in 1581, Yasuke was in his mid-20s, implying he was born around 1555. Yasuke first appears in historical records in 1581 as a bodyguard for Jesuit missionary Alessandro Valignano, who was sent by Pope Gregory III to evaluate the new Roman Catholic missions in Asia. Alessandro Valignano, born February 1539 in Chieti, Kingdom of Naples, and died January 26, 1606 in Macau, was an Italian Jesuit missionary instrumental in spreading Christianity in the Far East, particularly in Japan. Hailing from a prominent Italian family and initially trained in law, Valignano experienced a spiritual awakening that led him to join the Society of Jesus in 1566. In 1573, he was assigned to the Far East to oversee the expansion of Jesuit missions. He arrived in Portuguese India in 1574 and dedicated the remainder of his life to missionary work in Goa, Macau, and Japan. Among those he mentored for missions in China was the Italian Jesuit Matteo Ricci, who played a significant role in establishing Catholicism's influence at the Chinese court during the 17th century. Valignano's most significant impact on the spread of Christianity occurred in Japan. During his initial visit, he arranged for the Jesuit mission to benefit from a share of the lucrative silk trade between Japan and Macau, ensuring the mission's financial independence, while also converting several Japanese daimyos, hereditary feudal lords, eager to partake in the trade. To better integrate into Japanese society, Valignano's priests adopted the attire of Zen Buddhist monks. His reputation was so esteemed that he was welcomed by two successive Japanese rulers and allowed to establish a training center for local priests. In 1582, he sent 4 young Japanese Christian samurai to Rome, marking the first Japanese diplomatic mission to Europe. They were celebrated by the King of Spain, received with great honor by the Pope, and even portrayed by the artist Tintoretto. Despite the abrupt ban on Christianity in Japan in the early 17th century, Valignano's legacy endured. By the time of his passing, there were approximately 300,000 Christians and 116 Jesuits in Japan. Many accounts indicate that Yasuke accompanied Valignano from the Indies, suggesting they likely met in Portuguese-controlled Goa or Cochin, now Goa and Kochi, in India. However, it is also possible that the Portuguese-held island of Mozambique could have been referred to as the Indies at that time. Yasuke is believed to have journeyed with Valignano from Cochin to Malacca, now known as Malacca in Malaysia, and then to Macau, which is currently a special administrative region of China. They arrived in Japan at Kuchinotsu Port, located in present-day Nagasaki Prefecture, in May 1579. During his initial 2 years in Japan, Valignano focused on assessing the Jesuit mission facilities in the Kyushu region, implementing new guidelines and establishing an economic framework to support the mission's sustainability. As Valignano's bodyguard in a region rife with civil conflict, Yasuke provided essential protection during this period. In early 1581, as Valignano prepared to depart Japan from Macau and the Indian subcontinent, he needed the approval of Oda Nobunaga, the most powerful warlord in Japan, to leave. Accompanied by Yasuke and a sizable entourage, Valignano made his way to the imperial capital, Miyako, modern-day Kyoto, to seek an audience with Nobunaga. It was during this journey that Yasuke first entered the historical record. The Jesuit procession was overwhelmed by crowds when leaving Sakai in present-day Osaka and upon arriving in Miyako. Jesuit Louis Fro noted in a letter dated April 14, 1581, that the sheer number of spectators in Sakai caused damage to buildings as they climbed to catch a glimpse of Yasuke. Additionally, in Miyako, the throngs of people created such chaos that some were crushed to death and a newly built Jesuit church was nearly destroyed. The local populace had never encountered an African before, leading to their astonishment. Researcher Thomas Lockley, the author of this article, suggests that they may have perceived Yasuke as a divine figure, as depictions of the Buddha and other sacred characters were often illustrated with black skin in Japan during that era. Near the Jesuit church where Yasuke sought refuge stood Hononichi, a temple that Nobunaga had chosen as his residence in Miyako. The commotion from the riot caught Nobunaga's attention, prompting him to summon Yasuke, the source of the disturbance. Ota Gyuichi, who was present during the meeting, noted that Yasuke possessed the strength of 10 men and exhibited a commendable demeanor. However, Nobunaga harbored doubts about Yasuke's skin color, leading him to have his retainers scrub Yasuke, suspecting the dark hue might be artificial. Once it became clear that Yasuke's skin color was indeed natural, Nobunaga invited 3 of his sons who were nearby and hosted a banquet to honor this remarkable guest, ultimately rewarding Yasuke with a substantial sum of money. In my investigation, I found claims suggesting that Yasuke married one of Oda's adopted daughters and possibly had a sexual relationship with Oda Nobunaga. However, I encountered limited information on this subject, which leads me to believe it could merely be a rumor. In an unpublished document from around this time, Ota mentions that Nobunaga granted Yasuke the status of a vassal, providing him with a house, servants, a sword, and a stipend. Although the definition of samurai was somewhat unclear during this era, historians believe that this act would have been recognized as conferring warrior or samurai status. This is the origin of the claim that Yasuke was a samurai. Jesuit Marenko Mexia, who later accompanied Yasuke in Nobunaga's capital, Azuchi, now in Shiga Prefecture, noted that Nobunaga held a strong affection for Yasuke and frequently engaged in conversation with him. Mexia even mentioned rumors suggesting that Yasuke might be appointed Tono, or lord, indicating he could have been considered for the granting of a fief. From April to May of 1582, the Oda clan launched a campaign against Takeda Katsuyori in the Koshu region, led by Nobunaga's eldest son, Nobutada. After their victory, Nobunaga, along with Yasuke, toured the newly acquired lands. This event is chronicled in the diary of Matsudaira Itada, a retainer of Tokugawa Ieyasu. Matsudaira recorded Yasuke's presence as Nobunaga passed through Tokugawa territory on his return to Azuchi, noting Yasuke's name and height, 6 shaku 2 sun, approximately 6 feet 2 inches, or 1.88 meters, and confirming that he had been granted a stipend. Rather than fleeing, Yasuke rushed to the aid of Nobutada, who was trapped inside the nearby Nijo Gosho. Yasuke and the remaining Oda warriors fought valiantly, but their efforts were futile as they faced relentless fire from an adjacent building. Although Yasuke was captured by Mitsuhide's men, Mitsuhide recognized him and ordered his release, referring to him in derogatory terms. He argued that since Yasuke was not Japanese, his life should be spared. Unlike Nobutada and the other fallen samurai who were expected to commit seppuku, Mitsuhide's vassals escorted Yasuke to the Jesuit church, where the missionaries reportedly expressed their gratitude to God for his rescue. This marks the last known record of Yasuke. The Jesuit accounts from Japan were translated into Japanese by the esteemed scholar Murakami Naojiro and published between 1943 and 1944. In the latter part of the 20th century, his story began to gain recognition, first in post-war Japan and eventually on a global scale. Starting in 1968 with Kurusu Yoshio's award-winning children's historical fiction, Kurosuke Yasuke has increasingly served as a muse for various fictional characters across novels, plays, artworks, anime, and manga inspired by his life. Notable examples include the main character in Okazaki Takashi's Afro Samurai series, and several other figures of African, Japanese, or African American descent. In 2021, Netflix launched an anime series titled Yasuke, crafted by LeSean Thomas. And since 2019, there have been ongoing speculations about a Hollywood studio producing a feature film. The gaming industry has also seen a revival of interest in Yasuke beginning in 2013 with Nobunaga's Ambition Koei Tecmo. He played a significant role in Nia Koei Tecmo 2017 and inspired the character Nagari Yuki in Guilty Gear Strive Arc System Works 2021. His portrayal as a lead character in Assassin's Creed Shadows, Ubisoft, set to release in November 2024, has sparked considerable debate regarding historical accuracy. No matter what, I find the game enjoyable, and I wish there was more information available about Yasuke's life. There are documents and letters that confirm his existence, yet it often seems that when people of color are involved in significant historical events, their contributions are questioned. I believe this is unfair. Yasuke was a real individual who lived alongside a formidable warlord. One key takeaway from the game Assassin's Creed Shadows of the Animus is the importance of understanding our history. Here you go, the tale of Yasuke, the Black Samurai. I've been streaming the game live on my Twitch channel and YouTube, so make sure to check it out when you can. Don't forget to explore the merchandise at bdisaster91.com. More videos featuring the historical figures from the game are on the way, so stay tuned for those. I haven't had a chance to watch the Netflix series yet, but it certainly looks intriguing. If you've seen it, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Also, share your opinions in the comments about the video game Assassin's Creed Shadows and the characters Noe and Yasuke. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other because I appreciate you all.